that we can. And I think, honestly, for me, a big component is how you start your day, starting your day with intention. Regardless of your spirituality, if you don't even believe in a higher power, you can still connect to your own internal truth, you know, and we can maybe spend some time in whatever kind of way to center ourselves, whether it's meditation, whether it's taking a walk. But I think those components I would highly recommend, particularly at a time like we're dealing with right now, even in the midst of it.
So do you think that everything that we're doing right now, it's right, like, or we could do it better when it comes to the government? We have to stay home, or what's your thoughts on that? Like,
well, that's a huge question, and obviously I'm not an expert in public health and all these components, but from what I have done a lot of reading, and I actually have a really good friend of mine who's a physician who was trained in the West but is working in China and has been, you know, has seen everything through SARS and now has been quarantined, of course. So I'm hearing a lot from this individual as well, and reading a lot. And quite honestly, what is most impressive to me in terms of the analysis is people really thinking about, number one, we are a global interconnected world. And the idea that, oh, it's okay if some people suffer over there, it's not going to affect me. For example, when this whole thing broke out in China, I think back in January, the director of the World Health Organization asked for something like, I don't know, $700 million from all of the wealthy countries to help fight coronavirus. And the amount that they got back was less than $60 million. Okay? Which is pretty much a drop in the bucket. It does nothing. And now we're seeing it all over the world. Currently, you know, we have this major outbreak in Iran, and nobody's really caring about, you know, that's going to affect the whole region. We have outbreaks in Europe, outbreaks in the U.S. You know, it's a lot of concern about what's going to happen in India. So there's a lot of, you know, we're all connected. So that's one piece I think that really needs to be talked about. It needs to be done on a real global level. But in terms of the quarantine, I'm not convinced that you can just shut down an entire society, an entire economy for months and months until we get a vaccine. I do not think that is actually even sustainable. And the best work I'm reading is saying we need to be smart, protect the most vulnerable, and that's where we need to focus our resources, because there's a lot of components. For example, flu vaccine. One of the reasons some people are saying that the Italians are having such high rates is because there's a big anti-vaccine movement there. So a lot of people did not get the flu vaccine. One of the recommendations they're having here is for people to get the flu vaccine because of the symptoms being so similar. People end up going and getting really bad flus. They go into the hospital, and then they're also susceptible. You know, when your immune system is compromised, you're susceptible to other things. So there's lots of pieces that we could play from a public health perspective that could really make a difference. This is what I'm reading. Again, I'm no expert, but these are things that I've been paying a lot of attention to.
Do you agree with Wuhan's methods, I guess, for how strict they were right at the get-go, or?
Well, I mean, China is a totalitarian state. I don't want to live in that state. I don't think the idea of a drone coming in if you're out without some kind of official rule or don't have a mask on, and then the police come and potentially beating you till you submit is the way that I want to live. And I would rather not give up my government over a virus that is potentially only going to, not to belittle it, but they're saying fatality rate is more like 1% or under. That doesn't seem worth it to me to give up my entire society, economy, and country.
Exactly.
It doesn't seem worth it.
No. I think that, like the media is blowing it out of proportion, and then everyone's self-isolating so that the economy is at a standstill, and we can't really do anything from there regarding the 1% or under mortality rate.
I mean, quite honestly, some people are saying in the U.S., if we had had some type of national policy where everybody wanted to quarantine but it was an ended date of 2 weeks, which could slow down the process.
Yeah.
And then we could come out and focus on the most vulnerable. That's what I've heard of in a lot of really good op-eds and pieces in the New York Times and the LA Times. That would make sense. Okay, have a time limited. But right now we have a patchwork situation. We're supposed to be quarantined here in California, potentially who knows how long.
Yeah.
Probably, potentially months, I don't know. And it's happening in different parts of the country in different ways. Well, how in the heck is that going to be effective?
Yeah.
You know, so it needs to be done in a way that's actually thoughtful.
Yeah. It
Not
almost
just
throwing
it out there.
It almost seems like they're blowing it out of proportion on like they have some kind of different agenda or something. Like it seems over exaggerated with what their policy is, with how serious not to belittle it again as well to the virus, but it just seems completely left field compared to what's the rollout method of just constricting or self-isolating the vulnerable.
Yeah, I think part of that has to do with the fact that there is a lot of fear, there is a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, the politicians, people are not wanting to go out on the edge. And actually, I mean, our political system in the U.S. is pretty broken, as you can probably tell. And basically, I mean, I don't even want to get into the presidential politics, but even amongst the parties, you know, politicians, their main thing is to get reelected and self-preservation. So they don't actually want to take any type of real controversial stance and be the one to go against the most conservative policy, which is what we're dealing with, this draconian measure that who knows what the heck. We can't have, for example, as you all know as business people, nobody could run a business without having any sense of a strategic plan for the future. How could anybody possibly run a business with knowing, oh, I'm going to be shut down, but I have no idea how long? It doesn't work.
No.
So, I mean, they have to provide some endpoints for people, and I do think there's going to be a growing pressure around that.
Yeah, no. And I guess for them to be stagnant and do nothing, I guess for now, do you think it's like a matter of like a rebound for them to, whenever this settles, or if it, say in a month or two, it drops somehow? Do you think it's just a matter of getting back on the horse, or?
I don't know. I think that's a really good question. I think that ideally this event could allow people to really rethink and reframe things. For example, we have been underfunding or defunding public education in the United States for many, many decades. And I think people are really getting now that teachers have a critical place in our society. I cannot teach 3 different children, 3 different grades, and run my own, work at the same time. It's impossible. So, as a parent of 3 young children, so I think that people are hopefully going to recognize, okay, we need to put more money into the social fabric. We need to put more money into our public health departments, which have been greatly defunded. We need to build hospitals and bring in more primary care physicians, because at this point, even though the specialists in the hospitals are the ones who make the most money, when times of crisis comes, we need primary care people. So we're, hopefully we'll refocus there. Hopefully we'll think about, a lot of broader issues in terms of individuals, for example, and the U.S. is different than Canada, but, we never really got off the ground in terms of a universal healthcare system. That would have made a huge difference. And then I think thinking globally, really thinking globally. So is it a matter of getting back on the horse? Well, I hope that it's a matter of getting back on a different horse.
Yeah.
And thinking really about the ways that we look out for each other in society, rather than moving just for me. It only matters what's good for me.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. Because I don't know if you saw in the news or not, the Florida spring breakers.
Oh, God.
Yeah, how they were all concentrated on the party. And there was a lot of people in the comments section that kind of sided with them, but then after, everyone was like speculating on, no, it's not for them, you're isolating because of others, and it's a different frame of mind that you're essentially, like changing the way you think, I think, after this. in how you can make a difference?
Well, I think that a lot of young people feel pretty alienated, quite honestly. And I think there's a big issue, I mean, within our context, the U.S. context of people not trusting the government.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, because there's lots of reasons they've given us not to trust them. So it's not that it's just fabricated. But I think that there's an alienation, and there's a whole cultural piece around what's good for me is good for me. You know, if you are a person who pays attention to social media, that's pretty much what Instagram and all of these, for example, the patients that I work with, I mean, their biggest dreams are, making it big in social media because that's what they see.
Yeah.
And it's really a very, very narrow-minded view of their place in the world. Their biggest dreams aren't, how the people can I help? You see, how can my life make a difference? I'm not seeing that as the biggest dreams these days.
Okay.
And I think that is so. Hey, let's live it up for ourselves, and who cares about the rest?
Yeah.
And I mean, quite honestly, this speaks to me to the issue, and this is something I talk to my patients. What is your vision for your life? I'm hearing an 18-year-old college student not being able to articulate that. Well, okay, that's a question for me. What is your vision for your life? We should all be asking those questions of ourselves.
Yeah.